All right, everybody. Welcome today to the Daily Sketch Grind. We got Caleb back with us here today,
Hey, everybody.
and we are, for those of you who don't know, for the time being, I just found that I was getting the most value out of doing the reference studies, and that was helping me improve the most. So for the time being, I'm going to keep focusing on just reference studies every day until I don't know. I decided to go back to prompts, but you can do whatever you want. But I'm going to be doing reference studies, and I'm going to keep in this theme of elephants that we did yesterday. I'm going to do another one from a different angle. But yeah, you could do whatever you'd like. So we started a little bit late today, so we're going to jump in and set our timer for 5 minutes and go ahead and start with our warm-up. Caleb here is my assistant. He'll be reading off questions, so if you have a question, throw it in the chat, and he'll read it off. Just bring up my timer. All right, let's start. Looks like we got a question in the chat. What's the longest amount of time you spent on a single drawing? Probably. Usually, when I used to do like pretty much only traditional work, I find I spend a lot more time on traditional art than digital art. The longest I ever spent was close to, I'd say, like 20 hours maybe. It was really big. It was a tone paper drawing, but it was like, I don't know, like maybe 2 by 3 feet. So I'd say pretty big, pretty long time, but it was a big drawing. So yeah, that'd be the longest. Anyone name what prehistoric mammal I'm drawing right now? Any paleontology buffs out there?
Looks like nobody knows.
Nobody knows. It's my favorite. One of my favorites. I put it in top 3 favorite prehistoric mammals. And that might be one of the nerdiest things I ever said. All right. Time's up. Time to get for real here. In 1 second. Anyways, let's get in. Let's get into our reference today. The answer is Dinotherium. This is a Dinotherium. Mammoth? No. Close though. It is related to an elephant, but it is not a mammoth or a mastodon. These guys do not have fur.
How do you spell it?
Like this, I think. I'm pretty sure. They believe they use their tusks for digging up stuff out of the ground. And then the other one that's really cool is Platybelodon. That one's also related to elephants. It's like first part of platypus.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right, drawing time. So, let's start off by, as usual. Oh, man, I work out every morning before I do these live streams, and today was back day.
Ooh.
And I hurt my back like 2 months ago doing deadlifts, and I'm still recovering. But every day I do back day, even though I take it pretty easy, it still just like kills. It's freaking the worst. Sitting in this chair doesn't really help. But let's see. Let's jump in here. So, as usual, I start by blocking out the basic shapes. You weren't here, Caleb, but you should have seen it because the other day, was it Saturday, we did wings. Maybe it was Sunday. Not sure what day. One of those days I did wing studies and I drew like bird wings. And we compared my drawing to the reference photo and it was pretty dang close.
Yeah? Nice.
So I finally saw the Star Wars movie Solo. I hadn't seen it yet because I was kind of just after The Last Jedi, I was like, man, this is stupid. But I finally watched it. It wasn't as bad as Last Jedi, but it wasn't very good, I thought. I kept forgetting that the main character is supposed to be Han Solo. It just kind of felt like it was a story about some other guy. And then I'd remember like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be Han Solo, but he didn't. Like, there's nothing about him that made me feel reminiscent of Han Solo. He didn't like act like him or in any sense. It didn't even seem like, oh, this is how Han Solo would have been before, he became a smuggler stuff. It just didn't seem like Han Solo at all. Like, as a standalone movie, not about Han Solo, it was like, I guess it's all right. It wasn't like terrible. It was just very like blah, my opinion. And I was telling Caleb earlier, the one thing though that I was like, what the F is going on are those freaking Wookiees that Chewbacca rescues on that one planet. I don't know what the special effects people were doing, or if they just like walked out that day and they had to find some hobos off the street to make some Wookiee costumes, but they looked like nightmare fuel. They were the weirdest things I've ever seen. They did not look like Wookiees at all. They looked hideous. They weren't like, "Aw, look, a Wookiee like Chewbacca." It was like, "Oh, God, no, please.
Make it stop."
I was just like, what is going on? I've heard some people say it's because they're like malnourished and like all dirty from being slaves. But Chewbacca was way dirtier, and they said they hadn't fed him 3 days when they met Chewbacca, and he didn't look like that. So no, not. And he was like covered in mud. He still didn't look like that. Yeah, it was just weird. I didn't feel, and I thought the chemistry between the two main characters, Kira and Solo, was just like basically non-existent. Like I did not feel any sort of like attachment to them or their relationship. It was just like, okay, I guess you guys were supposed to be in love. I don't know. Overall, I was pretty unimpressed.
Samantha Pixley saying you should draw a Wookiee.
That might be fun.
You should draw them how you think they should be.
I would just draw them exactly how they look, how they're supposed to look. Having like, I don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is. I think it's a lot harder to draw stuff that's symmetrical, like from head on, a lot of times for me. I feel like I'm having a hard time getting down these basic shapes for this elephant accurately.
Innocent Midget has a question.
Yep.
How many back-to-back push-ups can you do in one set?
I don't know. I don't really do push-ups as part of my workout. We mostly use free weights. Typically for my workout, I bench. I do 4 to 6 reps, 3 sets of 4 to 6 reps, benching 55 pounds on each side. So, like a plate, and then 10. So I don't know how many push-ups that would translate into, but I believe it's working out the same muscle group. All right, we're starting over. This looks horrible.
What did you feel looked horrible about it?
I just didn't feel like the proportions were correct. I don't know. I need to start with the overall basic shape, but I just feel like I'm having a hard time like capturing that because there's so many like curving forms that aren't hard edges, you know? Like it just kind of fades into another shape. I'm trying to define it clearly using just lines when the image itself doesn't have like necessarily clear lines in a lot of places. Like a lot of the form is defined by shadow and the, I guess, what you'd call, what's the word? Contour line type things like wrinkles.
What is your favorite thing to draw?
Creatures, animals, like dinosaurs and dragons. No, I tend to like drawing like scaly or wrinkly or like amphibious creatures more than furry creatures because I like to see like the muscle definition and like, I don't know, the anatomy. I could probably use some studies on drawing fur a little better, but yeah, I'd say it would be creatures and animals. I think another thing that's making it feel weird is that like if you look at this guy's face, he's one, he's at an angle, but he's enough head on that your brain wants to draw it symmetrically. But the other thing is that even if he was head on, I don't really think he'd actually be symmetrical. It looks like he has some pretty, I mean, already you can look at his tusks, like one is way longer than the other. But even just like the rest of his head isn't quite symmetrical. And so it like when you look at your drawing, it kind of messes with you because you're like, oh, I messed up because it looks all wonky. But that's kind of how it looks, you know?
Patricia is asking what your least favorite thing to draw is.
My least favorite?
Stupid looking Wookiees?
Maybe. I'd say oh, it's not there's things that I'm not good at that I'm like less good at, but it's not necessarily my least favorite. I'd say just as a concept, my least favorite thing to draw is I don't know, like things for like anything that's I don't know, like paper towels. There you go. I hate drawing crumpled up paper towels. That's my least favorite thing to draw. I've had to draw that before. I'm not just randomly picking something. I had to draw that for a college art class.
Oh. So did you decide on an animal for the drawing that you're gonna do with Stave Draws?
Yes, we're going to be doing. I don't know what his is yet. Mine is a hawk.
Nice.
That's what everyone voted on. It was pretty close. It started out overwhelmingly a hawk, and I think some people were like, "Hey, what the heck? No, kangaroo needs some love." And it got pretty close. It was like 52 to 48 or something like that.
Oh, nice.
So, but hawk did win. All right, I feel like we're getting pretty close. Their proportions.
So it looks like people are starting to say where they're from. Bartholo Klumpdink is saying that he's from the UK, and he's asking where everyone else is from. We got Pernilla from Norway. And just waiting to get other responses.
That's awesome. It's so cool how the internet can connect us from all over the world.
Yeah. Comical Foods from New York City.
Nice. I have a question for Comical Foods. Whenever I see like a good example is like the new Spider-Man movie. I've never been to New York. Is it are the movies like accurate depictions? Like when you see those movies, are you like, yep, that's New York? Or is it like that's not really how it is?
So while they're answering that, we got others from US, Germany, Spain, New York, Poland. It's pretty cool.
Sorry, I'm not. It's not that I don't care. I just get really focused. That is pretty cool. Yeah, on Udemy, I can look at where my students are from, and only 15% of all my students are based in the U.S., which is, I think, it's pretty cool that I'm able to be in contact and reach so many people from all over the world.
Kay Morris from High Desert, California. Comical Foods is responding to your question. He's saying, he or she, I'm not sure, saying Times Square is like that, but in general, it's a bit more dirty.
Ah, interesting. Like, you mean like just like trash everywhere, or just like people are dirty? You just walk around with like grease all over their face.
Twilight Wolf 1994 has a great question, and you're at 10:30.
Okay.
All right. So again, Twilight Wolf 1994 has this question. Austin, I have an art question. How would an artist go about marketing? What's the best way to gain followers and build a good following?
Yeah, this is a question we had yesterday, and I would say number one thing is to post content consistently. That doesn't necessarily mean like you don't have to post like 3 times a day. You don't have to post every day. Just whatever rate you're going to post at, keep that consistent, and continue to keep doing that. That's what's going to get people interested and aware of your work. And then also make sure that you're not just posting work for the sake of posting it. Make sure it's work that is, decent, something that would be interesting for other people to look at. Like maybe you're doing a study of a paper towel for some reason and you need to understand it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's something people are really going to care about or want to see. And if you post too much stuff like that, it can cause people to unfollow you because you're clogging up their feed with boring stuff that they're not really interested in. So, yeah, that's the biggest one is post instant or consistently. If you're trying to, oh man, my back is killing. Let me read it again about marketing. Yeah, building a good following, that would be the best way. You just gotta keep posting consistently, put your stuff out there. Another good one. This is advice I guess I do this with like my courses and stuff, which is probably why I have so many students compared to subscribers on YouTube. But a big one would be this is something Jake Parker talks about, is making projects instead of just like art, like make a comic book or a course or some sort of collective body of work that people can get invested in and follow, like a series of something or an art book, something like that. That's going to attract a lot more followers and attention than just like a bunch of pictures that you post every day. People will find that more interesting and they'll want to see more because they like seeing things in a series and multiple iterations of the same thing.
I've seen you drawing dinosaurs. This is Panella, and they say I've seen you draw dinosaurs several times before. What is your favorite one to draw and why?
I don't know. I don't often draw like super specific dinosaurs. They're more like almost like fantasy dinosaurs. Like they're heavily influenced by realistic dinosaurs, but I kind of end up doing like my own take on them, like exaggerating certain things or whatever. So it's not really like a specific dinosaur, I'd say, but I enjoy drawing carnivores more than herbivores most of the time. But I don't know, just wherever I feel like, yo.
An interesting comment, also from Panella, saying, I just recently found your channel. It would have been so helpful when I started drawing digitally.
Well, you got it now, at least.
Adri Afro is asking, do you feel some of your art skills are weaker than others?
Art skills. I'm gonna guess that what you mean by that is like, do I feel weaker in certain like areas of fundamentals or certain like mediums? Like I'm not very good at sculpting as far as like human anatomy. I definitely feel is a weaker point for me because I draw so many animals. My human anatomy could be a lot stronger. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty critical, not to the point where it's like destructive, but to the point where I'm like, I could be better at all of the things. Like, I don't know. I think I could be better at perspective. I think I could be better at lighting. I think I could be better at anatomy. I don't know. I'd say my biggest weak spot would probably be the human anatomy, or maybe landscapes. Yeah, maybe landscapes. I feel like I can kind of work my way through anatomy if I take my time, but landscapes I'm not very good at. I have not really practiced doing them a lot.
What type of work were you doing as a freelance artist?
Let's see. I did some graphic t-shirt designs for a t-shirt company. I don't know if they ever got used or not, but I did some t-shirt designs like some was like art of horses, like kind of like really pop art, colorful sort of style horse art. Um, I did freelance. I'm trying to remember, it's been a while. I did children's book, which I also don't know ever got published or not. Uh, that was like it's called Max and Otis. I don't know how much I can say. I signed NDAs for a lot of it. Max and Otis, it was like a story about some dogs, this guy's pets, that he wanted to sell at national parks. That was like I was like, if you saw it, you wouldn't recognize it as my work. You'd be like, whoa, what? You drew that? Because I think I might have it as a thumbnail in one of my videos, but it was like really cartoony style art. Um, like animated style stuff of two chihuahuas. I did when I was the art director for this. It was like a Canadian animated TV show they were trying to do the pilot for, like an adult animated show. That was kind of like supposed to be like a sci-fi drama thing. I did the character design for that for the family, like um, yeah, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. I did like the dad and the mom. The dad was like the captain of the ship, and the mom was like a mechanic lady. Punk. She was kind of like supposed to be like a punk rocker person. And then the son, like the baby son. And then the ship design. I designed the spaceship too that they all flew on. Yeah, I don't know. This is like odd jobs, like stuff like that. Stuff that I didn't really enjoy for the most part, which is why I decided to try and pursue something else, because I was like, I do not want to be doing this forever. I mean, the pay wasn't spectacular, but you're always kind of like depending on that next job. And you just kind of have to draw what people want you to draw. It would also be annoying. It wasn't like this all the time. Like the animated show or whatever that I worked on wasn't like this a whole lot. I mean, as an art director, so I had pretty good creative control. But there was another one I worked on that they were trying to get pitched. They were trying to either pitch it as a graphic novel or no, they were trying to make it into like a film. And it was just the worst. It would be like the guy in charge, who was like the writer, the producer, the director, the everything, the art director, would be like, "Hey, I need a creature or a character that looks like this," and he'd like sort of describe it, and then he'd give me like a really crude, rough drawing, that he kind of like doodled out, like real bad. Like he'd be like, "I need an alien that kind of looks like this, like, one of these aliens." You'd be like, "Okay." So I do like a bunch of iterations of it to show him, and then he'd be like, "No, I don't like that. I want them to look more like this." And he would keep doing that over and over and over again until basically we were left with something that looked pretty much exactly like his drawing. And then he'd say, "Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really like it. It just doesn't look very good." I'd just be like, "Well, yeah, no duh, because you hired me to design some aliens, but you want them to look exactly like what you already have in your head, and what you have in your head looks stupid." And yeah, that was a bad project. I eventually dropped out of that. I was like, "All right, I'm done." he kept, actually, I don't even think I got paid for that one.
Oh, dang.
Because he's like, well, if you, I don't even remember everything that happened, but it was like it was like 3 or 4 years ago now. But yeah, he was just like, well, if you're dropping out, then yeah, I could get paid. I was like, well, I'm about 99% sure you're not going to pay me anyways. So yeah, that was a bad project. I did some portraits. I did like just some commissioned art. Like someone wanted me to draw them and their boyfriend as like she wanted me to draw them both as sloths. And one is like a Harry Potter sloth and one is like a Jedi sloth. That was weird. Did some like fan art for people from like Way of Kings and stuff like that. I don't know. I also wasn't very good back then, honestly. At least I wasn't as good as I am now when it came to digital art. I was just barely getting into digital art. Come a long way.
Bartholo Klumpdink is saying, do you ever draw from imagination?
Yep. I mostly draw from imagination. That's kind of why I wanted to start doing more reference, because it helped with my imagination drawing. So kind of making myself stick to reference for now, just to kind of discipline myself and get better. I'd say the vast majority of my art is out of my head, with only like a small portion of the finished pieces I do being from just being like reference portraits or anything like that. Like I use reference in my out of my head art sometimes, but it's not like a copy of it. I was just kind of like taking pieces from it, you know.
Sophia's asking, do you get people asking you to do artwork for them for free? And if so, how do you handle it?
Yeah, I used to. Not anymore. Um, yeah, I just say no. Like, no thanks. Yeah, I'm busy. I mean, if you want to do it, go for it. Do free work. Here's typically, I don't think it's inherently bad or wrong to do free work. I think that if you're going to do free work, though, I actually think it can be really valuable for your career to do free work. But the way that I think you should go about it is to be the one to approach someone and be like, hey, I like what you're doing. I don't have a ton of experience, but I'm willing to do some free work as like a test run, or to just, you can use this or whatever, and if you like it, you can hire me to make more or whatever. I think that's fine and a good idea in a lot of cases to help you build good connections. If you're really just starting out and you don't have any of the experience, that can help catch some people's eyes. But just having people say, hey, can you do some free work? If it's like a kick-ass project, like they're trying to, I don't know, maybe they're trying to make some sort of Kickstarter game, but they need the funding to make the art, and it really is something that you're passionate about and you really enjoy it, then I would be like, sure, go for it. But most of the time when people are, I mean, we've all heard the trope of like, oh, I'll pay you an exposure, and it's possible. Like you might get a lot of exposure from it, but if someone is saying that they'll pay you an exposure and you're going to be the one doing like most of the art for it or all the art for it, my response would be, okay, I'll do it for free and accept this exposure as payment on the condition that my name is on the front page of it, on whatever it is. Like if it's a movie, it's going to say like Austin Bachelor's blah, blah, blah. Or if it's a comic book, it's going to be like Austin Bachelor's this. Or like whatever the project is, my name is attached to it everywhere it goes, and not just in the credits. It's like part of it so that everyone knows I'm the one who did the work for this, and it actually gives me an exposure. And if they say, okay, fair, then I'd be like, cool. If you think it's going to be a project that's going to gain some traction and they got some following behind them, then I'd be like, sweet, that probably will actually give you exposure. If they say no, then it's like, that's not going to give me any exposure. No one's going to know I worked on that. No one's going to know it was me. But yeah, you don't need to be rude. You don't need to be all indignant and like, oh, how dare you ask me? It's insulting my sensibilities as an artist. Blah, blah, blah. Just be like, no thanks. Appreciate it, but I got a lot of work on my plate. Not interested. Thanks for the offer. I always try and be polite in case they ever do come back with funds or whatever. But I always try and be polite and just say, no thanks. Thanks for the consideration, though. I appreciate it.
So we've got two questions, or a few, looks like. What's your advice for someone like me who only uses references to move to use imagination?
Stop using references. I know it's not really profound, but like that's honestly the answer. You just gotta start drawing without reference. It would probably help if you well, this is what I would do. This is what I used to do a lot. I would draw a bunch of reference studies of something like in my old sketchbooks, and then I'd do a bunch of reference studies, and then I would try and redraw that same thing out of my head. So I'd draw like a bunch of studies of lions, and then I'd be like, okay, now I'm gonna draw a lion the best I can without looking at reference. And I would do that on a bunch. I'm going to draw a bunch of reference studies of octopi, and then I'm going to do my own study, or do my own drawing of an octopus and get it as that, like try and make it look real and draw it out of my head. And then just start drawing stuff that just start. It probably would help if you have a prompt, like instead of just kind of doodling, pick something that you have to draw with like a purpose, like a creature design or whatever it's going to be. But just start. That's it. That's the secret sauce that everyone wants to know what it is, but no one wants to do it most of the time.
Have any of you ever used Autodesk Sketchbook, and what is the best size for a high-def image or canvas to draw on? Are you familiar with Autodesk?
Yeah, I've used it. I don't know the best resolution, but I've used it, and it's all right for kind of sketching around and stuff, but I didn't feel like I could make as polished images as I could in Procreate. I like Procreate a lot better, but it's not a bad program. He's on the iPad. I know they have a desktop version too, I think. But yeah.
Did you start drawing with references?
Nope. I just when I was a kid, basically, honestly, the way that I really drew most of the time when I was a kid is that it would be like we playing some sort of like pretend game with my friends and like the neighborhood kids, and we'd like make up creatures or characters that we were playing, that we were being in the games we'd play. And I would just always draw. I would try and draw like what my guy looked like, and I'd be like, okay, this is what I look like. This is what my guy looks like. Um, so that people could, so I could like show people like, okay, this is in our pretend game. This is who I am. Um, it wasn't until I got more serious that I started using reference, because when I would try and use reference as a kid, I would just always get really discouraged because it would not come out looking how I wanted it to. So I'd get frustrated and just be like, I don't need to use reference. I draw it in my head. But then as I got older and more serious, I was like, no, if I really want to get good at this, I really do need to do some studies. So then I started doing studies.
Would you recommend Procreate for mobile users?
Like on your phone? Well, iPad works great. I don't know about the phone. It seems like it'd be pretty hard. But I mean, if that's all you got, I don't know. I think that doing it on your phone, it seems like it would be such a hindrance that you'd be better off just using paper and pencil, because you'd at least be able to get more accurate marks with your lines and, I don't know, be able to practice the fundamentals better than just drawing with your phone on such a tiny little space. But I don't know. Oh man, we might go a little bit over today because I want to finish this one and I'm not quite there, but we're pretty close.
Did you learn let's see. Aelantan is asking, did you learn to draw traditionally on paper, and when switched to digital medium, did you use screen tablet or one without a screen display?
Yeah, I started out traditionally on paper and pencil because I couldn't really afford a tablet. And so yeah, I drew on paper and pencil, and then when I switched to digital at first, um, I first had a bamboo tablet which didn't have a screen, and I had such a hard time getting things accurate that I got pretty discouraged and didn't really do a lot of digital stuff. I did some, but I just got really frustrated, and so I ended up just sticking to traditional more. Um, and then I finally was like, okay, you know what? That's dumb. If I really want to be successful, I'm pretty much guaranteed, not necessarily have to, but it's going to increase my chances a lot if I learn digital. So I was just like, well, I can either kind of buckle down and do the try and figure out using the bamboo tablet, which I just wasn't super keen on doing, or I can just save up my money and try and buy an iPad because I've seen some pretty good work on that. Um, so I did the latter option. I donated plasma. I used my tax return, saved up, bought an iPad and an Apple Pencil, and I never looked back. But I mean, you can totally learn on a tablet. I was just being a big baby. That was a stupid excuse, honestly. I probably could be a lot further along if I had just done it. So don't use that as an example for why you shouldn't try or whatever. But it is definitely help lessen the learning curve when you have a tablet. You can like see the screen, I think.
Okay, that same person is saying, I have problems with my traditional sketches being so much better than my than any drawing I do on a graphic tablet without a screen.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I don't know. I wish I could give you more advice, but I never really. I kind of just like decided to get one with a screen instead of dealing with it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Caleb can give you advice because I know he draws on a tablet without a screen.
Yeah, I use a Wacom Intuos, and that that's not a tablet that I can just draw on the surface. I need to connect it to the computer. I draw on the tablet, and then it shows up on my computer screen. And definitely there was a learning curve. It was difficult at first and really weird, and I felt like my lines were not uh, what I wanted them to be. I would draw a line, and on a piece of paper it would look great, but on the tablet it was just weird. And I wondered if I'd ever get over that, and if I'd ever feel um, that drawing was natural on the tablet. And it's become a lot more natural as I've just done it over and over again and just used my tablet. Controls and using a tablet and everything, but just stick to it. Sophia's saying, "Uh-oh, it looks like you got cut off, maybe." I'm not sure. I still see it on my computer, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Maybe the audio cut out, or maybe you're saying that because the time's up. I'm just gonna keep going for a minute here and finish up.
Sophia said,
All right, well, I think this one turned out okay. The shading, like the cross hatching and stuff, I don't think turned out as good. All right, well, fixed it, I think. Looks like we're having issues. I'm not sure if you guys can